अत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयति गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्येश्वरम्. Okay, Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone. So we started with the prayer because today is a very exciting session, right? So we'll actually be seeing a lot of prayers today. So let's quickly do a recap because today we are actually finishing off a complete section from the fourth canto. So in the fourth canto, we have been discussing on the Daksha Yajna, right? So the conversations of Daksha. The story goes this way. So if you all remember, so Daksha entered his sacrificial arena. Lord Shiva did not get up from his place, and Daksha cursed Lord Shiva. And because of which the Yajna was actually spoiled. Lord Shiva comes back to his place. Next time when Daksha did the Yajna, he did not invite Lord Shiva. And Sati Devi wanted to attend, so she gave her list of reasons. And there was an entire chapter dedicated to that conversation between Lord Shiva and Mother Sati, saying that why she should attend as a daughter and why Lord Shiva told her or suggested her otherwise, saying that it's probably not the right place. Despite this, Sati Devi goes to the Dakshayagna and then confronts her father, who again ill-treats Lord Shiva by words, and Sati Devi leaves her body. This enrages the disciples, the followers of Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva himself actually creates this form of Virabhadra and destroys the Dakshayagna. So all the people there were cursed and counter cursed Nandishwara to Bhrigu Muni. Everyone there was actually having a lot of problem. Finally, Daksha's head was chopped off. In the previous chapter, Lord Brahmaji comes and prays or pacifies Lord Shiva. He convinces Lord Shiva with his prayers. So that's what we had seen in the previous chapter. And in this chapter, in the first part of this chapter, today we'll be doing the second part. Lord Shiva uh, by because of the prayers of Brahmaji, he actually revives Daksha. Right, so Daksha's life is given back, but the head is chopped off, so that is replaced with the head of a goat. Daksha, when he actually comes back, he immediately looks at Lord Shiva. He can't say anything, right? So he's lost his daughter. He's insulted such a wonderful personality. So his words are not coming out, and then he actually prays the word that's used there is he prays very sincerely to Lord Shiva. He asks for forgiveness and he says, can we continue the yajna? So this happens, and then the yajna starts, and they invite Lord Hari. Lord Narayan himself appears in the sacrifice arena as soon as the clarified butter and the Yajurveda mantras are offered. That's what was mentioned in the previous class. And then Lord Hari being the Yajna Purusha himself. So as soon as he comes, everyone looks at Lord Hari, and the beauty of the form of the Lord is described in a few shlokas. I've just got a summary here. The Lord appeared sitting on Garudadev. As soon as he comes, everyone looks at the Lord. The effulgence that's coming from the Lord is so wonderful that everyone becomes effulgent there, right? So whatever lusters the demigods, the assembled sages, the personalities like Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Daksha, and others are there, their whatever glow that they had completely vanished off. The effulgence of the Lord overtakes everything. And how is he? He's in the blackish complexion, Shamaranga. He's wearing the yellow garments, right? So Hiranya, it's a golden yellow garment that he's wearing, a beautiful crown that is dazzling like the sun, and so on, right? So there is a beautiful description of the Lord's body in a few shlokas that's mentioned. After all this, the demigods, it's said that the demigods pray to the Lord. And the way it is mentioned here is that the demigods pray to the Lord to their capacity. And Srila Prabhupada continues saying that you can serve the Lord to your capacity, and then that capacity increases by the mercy of the Lord. So the prayers and our services become very wonderful because of our effort and the Lord's mercy. So that reminds us back to the Damodar Leela where we say, endeavor and mercy, whatever is our 2 inch of endeavor that we have, the mercy of the Lord overflows, right? So every service that we do, every prayer that we do, it's a combination wherein the mercy of the Lord, the mercy of our acharyas actually overtakes or overpowers our endeavors, which make our services wonderful. So never become proud of our service. So we stop there. We kind of stop there. There were a few prayers that were discussed, if I'm right, but what we will do is we'll start from there. So today's section is going to be all about prayers of these demigods. We'll try to understand some of the key elements from these prayers. It might go a little drier because there's no katha involved. It's going to be a set of prayers, and then we will see how the Lord reciprocated to these prayers and what happened to Mother Sati. And thus we end the Daksha Yajna, or this entire portion of 6-7 chapters on Daksha Katha, and we'll discuss on the Falastuti, or what is the glory of actually hearing this Katha. Okay, that's what we will try to cover today. Let me share my screen. We will go prayer by prayer. Kind of finished till 25 with the previous set. So let's go to text 26 onwards. So text 26, Daksha Vacha. So Daksha addressed the Supreme Personality of Godhead, my dear Lord, you are transcendental to all speculative positions. You're completely spiritual, devoid of all fear, and you're always in control of the material energy. Even though you appear in the material energy, you're situated transcendently. You're always free from material contamination because you're completely self-sufficient. There is no purport here. There are a few purports that are there. Some of the purports actually repeat the prayer itself because the prayers are sufficient, and a few prayers in fact actually summarize Krishna consciousness, or what Srila Prabhupada's mood and mission were. So what we will do is we'll probably summarize, we'll read a lot of these translations today. The purpose will be relatively less. Okay, so Daksha is the one who started off with the prayers. So we'll also start off with our Om Ajnanatimirandasya prayers to understand these prayers, how they go on. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपादान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमः ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Okay, Hare Krishna. Well, we have done the recap. So before we go into the prayers, so one of the things that we saw in the beginning of this chapter is when Lord Shiva, after hearing the prayers of Brahmaji, he actually mentions that I understand, but I had to punish. That's the kind of message he gives when he actually revives the Daksha set. So if you see many times, when a senior Vaishnava, when a senior devotee, when a spiritual master, spiritual authorities, they actually scold us, or they chastise us for not doing something or doing something wrong. We sometimes feel that, "Oh, how can this person say? I mean, if it's a spiritual master, we are still okay." Though, there's our ego is still hurt. But if it's another devotee, even though it might be seniors or juniors or whatever it is, right? So we immediately get affected because our ego takes a very, very important position. So Lord Shiva here, when he chastises or he chops off the head of Daksha, uh, through the others as well, right? So he says that when the chastisement does not happen, or what we should understand is when the chastisement does not happen, we are not actually progressing. Like when a king punishes the thief, it is good for both the thief and the king. That means when you are in a position of either taking care of someone else or you're in a position of someone else taking care of you, you are entitled for that punishment. That means you either give the punishment because it's your responsibility, or you accept that punishment because it is necessary for you to progress. So whenever there is any kind of chastisement, or when a devotee actually tells something about you to improve you, take it with that right spirit, because that's how we have to learn from the Shastras. The other part that you would see in these prayers, as we read through, there will be various personalities of different stratures, right? So, for example, Daksha, who was looking for some fruitive benefits when he started off, that's what we understood, right? So, or you would see Lord Brahma's prayers or Lord Shiva praying. You would see Bhrigu Muni praying, who was such an elevated person, but he actually cursed the disciples of Lord Shiva. Right, so how did he fall down? You would see different sadhus praying. So they are also in different levels, right? So some of them can be Dhyanis, some of them can be yogis, some of them can be devotees. You would see the wives of the patnis praying. So you will see different people praying and different types of prayers that you would see. And many times Srila Prabhupada actually speaks about how we can relate back these prayers, or part of these prayers, back to bhakti. Sometimes you will feel that, hey, why are they praying only so much? Why are they actually glorifying the Lord or praying to the Lord in so and so way? In Gita Shubodhini, when we look at His Grace Gaurang Darshan Prabhu's details, he actually uses purports from other acharyas, wherein he talks about how there is an interrelationship between these prayers. I will not go there today, but devotees who are interested can look into it, because Srila Prabhupada does not explicitly cover those. So I'm not touching upon those beyond Srila Prabhupada's prayers, but interested devotees can look into it. There are some devotees who actually read purpose from, let's say, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur or Baldev Vidyabhushan and others. So for them, that might be a very interesting piece, wherein there's a prayer from, let's say, Daksha, how that prayer by the next person or the subsequent devotees, they say that, okay, Daksha is looking at it from a material angle, but oh my Lord, you're beyond that. So that kind of an interrelationship is there, but we'll not be touching it. So let's come back here. So first thing is the Lord is Atma Rama. That's the first prayer. So why is Daksha praying? Daksha is the kind of head of that sacrifice arena, right? So everyone is come there as a host. He's welcoming the Lord with his prayers. So that's how we should understand. Even though there are more qualified personalities, as a host, it becomes his responsibility to welcome the personality. So whenever there is someone who would come, let's say, to the temple, even though there are seniors and so on, the person who is hosting will actually welcome them with a garland or with nice welcome words. Right? So that's what Daksha is doing here. You have other wonderful personalities also in this arena. So the Lord is Atmarama, is never touched by any material contamination. So anyone who is praying to the Lord is always free from fear, always free from your, contamination of material items. Next, all the priests pray. So the priests were cursed by Lord Shiva's men, that you remember the Brahmanas and the priests, they were cursed, saying that you will actually do all your Vedic activities for satisfying fruitive desires that you have. That was the curse, right? So they are praying. Uh, so the priests address the Lord, saying, O Lord, transcendental to material contamination, by the curse offered by Lord Shiva's men, we have become attached to fruitive activities, and thus we are now fallen and therefore do not know anything about you. On the contrary, we are now involved in injunctions of the three departments of the Vedic knowledge under the plea of executing rituals in the name of yajna. We know that you have made arrangement for distributing the respective shares of the demigods. So the yajnas are used to satisfy the demigods. What do the demigods do in turn when you just do the yajnas and pray for things like Dhanam Dehi, Vidya Dehi, Shreya Dehi, whatever it is, right? So your Dehi, Dehi, Dehi means give me, give me, give me. The demigods in turn, depending on your karma and depending on the sacrifice that you have given, grant you what you rightfully need to get. That's one part. So the Brahmana saying that we have become like that, or these priests here, they say that because of that curse, we are now looking at the Vedic knowledge for the satisfaction of karma. See, this is not necessarily wrong, but this is unfortunately not complete. Right. So we have discussed this when we did the curses section, wherein we said that look, uh, today's most of the time you will see that the people who do these yagnas, the people who sponsor for these yagnas, are stuck with the benefits that they get out of these yagnas or any of these sacrifices, and they pay so much to the priest. The priest also demands XYZ. So the whole purpose of satisfying the Yagneshwara or the Yagna Purusha, that is lost because you're looking at only at the demigod level. But Srila Prabhupada mentions, right? So beyond these modes, those who are serious students of the Vedas are very much attached to the ritualistic ceremonies mentioned in the Vedas, and therefore uh, these Vedavadis cannot understand the ultimate goal of Vedas, that is to understand or Krishna or Vishnu. So when your knowledge is not complete, then you're still attached to the benefits that you get out of these Vedas. That's why it's very important. That's why for a devotee, for a Krishna conscious devotee, it is mentioned that you are just by chanting Hare Krishna, doing the Sankirtan Yagna, you're satisfying everything that is there in the Vedic scripture. Sometimes we may doubt why is it mentioned like this. So by satisfying this one, am I going to please the demigods? Am I going to get the rain? Am I going to get elevation to the higher planetary systems? Am I going to get a good birth? Am I going to get very nice children? Am I going to get this? Am I going to get that? First thing is, we don't need all of those. We need to get out of this entire material world and understand Lord Krishna and get back to Him. And that's what your Sankirtan Yajna can do. That's what your worship of the Lord will do, right, with by his holy names. That's why we are very fortunate, we don't need to get into all these things that are there in the Vedic scriptures. Is it not required? That is left to us. It is not necessary. We can just chant and be happy. We can get the ultimate goal and by chanting and serving the Lord. Okay, so as it is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, men of small knowledge are very much attached to the flowery words of the Vedas, and thus they say that there is nothing more than this. So every time there is, so we need to understand that close to 80% of the Vedic knowledge, 70 to 80% of the Vedic knowledge is actually on the karma platform. It says that do this karma, do this activity, this would be the benefit. Don't do this because this is the unfortunate result of this. Do this charity, you will get this. Do this sacrifice, you will get this. So every action that we do, that is connected back saying that it is correct or wrong, right? So the Vedas give you that kind of a direction. And just by sticking to this, many of them get lost because they are improving their material strength, their material world. And thus they go to higher planetary systems, enjoy life for many, many years. Then Abrahama Purna Loka, Punaravartinarjuna. Again, they fall down here, unfortunately, and they have to continue recollecting the benefits. Or if they don't have enough pious credits, they fall down and they suffer. Okay. So if you're just stuck to this, it is not sufficient. So you need to understand the conclusions of the Vedas, the ultimate of which is described in Srimad Bhagavatam that we are trying to understand, right? So the members of the assembly address the Lord, O exclusive shelter for all who are situated in troubled life in this formidable fort of conditional existence. The time element, like a snake, is always looking for an opportunity to strike. This world is full of ditches of so-called distress and happiness. And there are many ferocious animals always ready to attack. The fire of lamentation is always blazing, and the mirage of false happiness is always alluring. But one has no shelter from them. Thus, foolish persons live in the cycle of birth and death, always overburdened in discharging their so-called duties, and we do not know when they will accept the shelter of your lotus feet. So continuing with the previous prayers, the members in the assembly, they're saying that, oh, this world is dukhalaya ashashvatam. You have read this so many times, right? So there's always trouble. There is, that typical example of the person hanging in a tree, holding onto the branch of the tree that is eaten by the two black and white mice. A snake is attacking. There is a tiger at the bottom, and there is a honey drop that's falling, and he's putting his tongue out, saying that can it taste that honey? Our position is that precarious, right? So we are in that very dangerous position in this material world, and here we are looking for that one drop of honey. I leave my hand, I'm going to die. If the day and night the two mice eat off the branch is going to cut off and I'm going to fall down dead. If I somehow escape uh, of not falling down, the snake is going to bite me. If I escape that snake and jump down, then the tiger is going to chase me, or there is a deep well that I'm going to fall into and die. So whatever stage I am, there is more danger than happiness. Okay, this world is full of ditches of so-called distress and happiness. Even this happiness is short-lived, right? So we keep hearing this. Happiness is how much for how long, right? So I got the first rank in my ninth standard. Yes, my next 10th standard is starting in 2 months. Typical, right? So I topped my 10th standard. Everyone said 10th standard mein achhe mark leke aa jao, your life is done. Then suddenly I realized my 12th is very important, and I'm working through my summer holidays, my winter holidays to get good marks in 12th, and nothing stops, right? So your job, your marriage, this will keep going on, right? So that happiness is also short lived, and it says the mirage of false happiness. And mirages, in a desert, sometimes feel that there is water and chase it, you chase it, it's just desert and desert. There are many people who have lost their life because of this mirage of false happiness. Here, Srila Prabhupada, I was just reading another, I think a quote from Srila Prabhupada very recently. He said that this oasis, there's a little bit of water that's there in the desert, right? So the oasis, like a mirage, which is a false water, you have the oasis that is there, and like an oasis in the desert, this Krishna consciousness moment is that source of pleasure or water for a person who is in this deep distressed desert of material world. That's what Srila Prabhupada mentioned. So we in Krishna consciousness have this most important responsibility, right? Because they're praying here, right? So we do not know when these people who are struggling in this foolish people who are struggling in this material world of punarapi jananam punarapi maranam, no, when will they accept the shelter of your lotus feet? They are saying, and we have that huge responsibility. That's what Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purpose. This Krishna consciousness moment is meant to give relief to all these bewildered and distressed persons. Okay, this Krishna consciousness this moment is the greatest relief for this human society, and it becomes our greatest responsibility to actually direct people here, right? So it's a responsibility for each one of us. It's Yare Deko Tare Karo Krishna Pradesh. That's what Lord Chaitanya says. Somehow or other, we should take this message and move forward. Every month is important, right? So we just had the Kartik month where we did the Damodar lamp offering. We tried to get as many new souls as possible, and now we have hit the next one. We have hit the book distribution, the book marathon month. And each one of us has to take a commitment. Each one of us has to take a responsibility, because that is for the pleasure of Srila Prabhupada. There's nothing else that pleases Srila Prabhupada. Nothing else pleases our spiritual masters more than actually bringing new people, bringing those souls and keeping them in Krishna consciousness. It could be bringing new souls, or keeping those souls, not letting people drift away, right? So it's not only about outreach, it's also about ensuring that people are here are not lost. And that's why I think I can't stop appreciating enough the devotees who are putting so much effort to actually do this Gita Gyan every day morning. Some or other, every day morning, devotees get connected, do their rounds, start off their day in a very Krishna conscious way. Otherwise, rest of the 18, 20 hours of the day is completely materialistic. At least give those 2, 3, 4 hours to Krishna. So thank you all who are actually participating, who are actually running these things. Okay, so we saw people in the assembly have all spoken. Now the authorities will start speaking, right? So we'll start with Lord Shiva. So Lord Shiva, says, "My dear Lord, my mind and consciousness are always fixed on your lotus feet, which are which, as a source of all benediction and fulfillment of all desires, are worshipped by all liberated great sages, because your lotus feet are worthy of worship. With my mind fixed on your lotus feet, I am no longer disturbed by persons who blaspheme me, claiming that my activities are not purified. I do not mind their accusations, and I excuse them out of compassion, just as you exhibit compassion towards all living entities." Okay, Lord Shiva is a very, very wonderful personality. We have discussed this through these chapters, right? So we understood the position of Lord Shiva. He's such a wonderful personality. But there are a lot of people who criticize him, like how Daksha did. We actually spoke about it. Even some people within the Vaishnava sect also sometimes find fault with Lord Shiva. We should be very, very, very careful in not doing such things. But uh, the wonderful personality that he is, he starts off by saying that my mind and consciousness are always fixed on you, my dear Lord. Right. So he is always thinking of the Lord. So anyone who comes to him with materialistic desires, he actually sends them away, giving them whatever materialistically they want, because he just wants to get out of such people. People talk about him as Ashutosha, very easily pleased, right? So they tell him that, oh, you go to Lord Shiva, he'll fulfill. But he's not very happy fulfilling your materialistic desires. And there are people who actually complain, oh, he's covered by ashes, he puts skeleton head. Oh, people who pray to him are the pretas and the pihashas, and you know, such kind of personalities. He doesn't mind, because oh, he ensures whoever comes to him sincerely praying to him, he redirects them to the Supreme Lord. And he excuses all those people who do these faults, because he's very, very merciful or very compassionate. Okay, what we should also understand, that when you blaspheme a devotee, the Lord is not very happy with us, right? So he might excuse, the devotee might forgive us, but the Lord is not going to like it. So so while the others are saying the importance, so Lord Shiva says that even Daksha, he obviously forgave him, right? So where he got him back to life, Brahma's prayers in the early part of this chapter. So Lord Shiva is very, very easily taken care when the devotees approach him. Okay, from the statement of Lord Shiva, it is understood that he was always in Krishna consciousness, thus he remained free from material affliction. The only remedy, therefore, is to continue Krishna consciousness rigidly in order to get rid of the contamination of material modes. So some people say that Lord Shiva is connected with the modes, with the gunas. Lord Shiva actually takes care of the lower modes, right? The ignorance, basically. So he says that Lord Shiva is not in any of these. He's not contaminated by any of these. He's not touched by them, right? So his touch of the gunas through Mother Parvati is a lot different from the way we are actually entangled by these modes of nature, right? So that we need to understand the position and the prayers. Next, Bhrugumuni said, "My dear Lord, all living entities, beginning from the highest, namely Lord Brahma, down to the ordinary ant, are under the influence of insurmountable spell of illusory energy, and thus they are ignorant of their constitutional position. Everyone believes in the concept of body, and all are thus submerged in the darkness of illusion. They are actually unable to understand how you live in every living entity as the supersoul, nor can they understand your absolute position. But you are the eternal friend and protector of all surrendered souls. Therefore, please be kind towards us and forgive all our offenses." So Bhrigu actually does an offense. So if you see in the earlier chapters, Lord Shiva did not come down to fight, right? So when Sati Devi left her body, he was just quiet. His disciples actually started fighting when initially, and then he obviously got angry. Now, Bhrigu was one of those who was on the side of Daksha. He is a very qualified personality. Bhrigu Muni's story we have heard. So he says that I did a very big mistake actually of cursing the disciples of Lord Shiva. Please forgive me. As a super soul, you understand me from inside, right? So the Lord understands us from inside out. Many times that's a very, very scary situation, right? So whatever are my anarthas, they are very openly visible to the Lord. I can dress up very nicely as a devotee, pretend to being a very nice devotee, but from inside, whatever are my anarthas, whatever, uh, things that are running in my head, that is very clearly visible to the spiritual master and to the Supreme Lord as the super soul, right? So he knows us, he tolerates us, he directs us if we want those directions. Like whenever we do those offenses in chanting, see, that's most of the time that's where we can test out what's happening inside us, right? So during our chanting, the mobile phone is ringing, we are talking to someone else, our mind is talking about how I run my business, what do I cook, how my office will work, where do I travel, what is the latest offer that's happening, what is the plan for New Year. If all these are running in my head while I'm chanting the Hare Krishna mantra with maybe it's early in the morning, so unfortunate, right? So, but the Lord still tolerates us. So don't do these offenses. And whenever we are falling down, just pray to the spiritual master, pray to Srila Prabhupada, pray to Nityanand Prabhu. They will give you the directions. Pray to Balramji. Okay. Lord Brahma said, my dear Lord, your personality and eternal form cannot be understood by any person who's trying to know you through the different processes of acquiring knowledge. Your position is always transcendental to the material creation, whereas the empiric attempt to understand you is material, as are its objectives and instruments. So whatever we use to understand the Lord, because we are in a material position, we are not going to anytime understand him fully. Our understanding will be on the materialistic platform. So the Gyanis who are using different instruments in this case, right? So who are trying to understand the Lord, they will still fall into the concept of I can understand the Lord by my capacity, which is not the truth, right? So the Lord in Bhagavad Gita says, "Bhaktya mam abhijanati," right? So only by bhakti, devotional service, when I serve the Lord, my understanding becomes more and more. The Lord actually assures that in Bhagavad Gita, right? He says that whatever knowledge that you need, I will give you that, right? So what you need to do? Seva in Mukha Jivado, starting our service with Jiva, with our tongue. By chanting and by taking prasadam, we start there, right? So Sivan Mukha Jivado Swayame Visparadata. I mean the Lord's transcendental glories you can start understanding. And this understanding never ends, and the service never stops. That's how the devotees go. When we read further in Bhagavatam, when we read the next canto, in the fifth canto, you will see the story of Jadabharat and Rahugana, those conversations, right? So how Srila Prabhupada mentions that this service can never stop, right? So the more you serve, the more you want to serve, the more you want to serve, the more opportunities you get to serve. This continues to go. And as we serve, we understand the Lord more and more, more and more, right? So that's what you will see from some of the senior Vaishnavas, the acharyas, right? So initially, you would see that they would put so much effort. Like for example, when we have to prepare for a class, when we have to talk to devotees, you probably prepare for 2 days, 3 days. You spend 8, 10 hours to prepare on maybe 2 shlokas, 5 shlokas, depending on what is. I see many of you are actually preachers in one sense, right? So whatever effort you put, but then as you see devotees who have stayed here for a longer time, who have been connected and serving very wonderfully, they just come and they start off and they can just flow with the topic. So I will give this example. So one time, His Grace Sarvabhaum Prabhu was in the temple, and he was giving a class somewhere else, and he asked what was the shloka that he was supposed to give, and the devotee was actually taking care of it. He gave him the shloka number, but unfortunately that shloka number was the previous shloka, and this was from the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And we were in the temple, we were arranging for the class, and on the board, whiteboard, we had written the different shloka, which was the correct shloka. He unfortunately had given a previous shloka. We did not know. And Sarvabhaum Prabhu came and sat on the Vyasasan, and then he turned around. He looked at the whiteboard. He looked at us. He said, "Is this the shloka?" And yes, Prabhuji, this is the shloka. He said, "Okay," and he started off. We did not know the background, and he gave such a wonderful class. And he connected to so many pastimes of the Lord, connected to only that shloka. And the devotee who had actually given him the wrong shloka, he told us at that moment he was coming with Sarvam, but I gave him a different shloka. He said, no, we can't change. The class has already started. Give such a wonderful class. Then you understand that these devotees are full-time connected. They can just flow because they have full knowledge. They are fully connected and they just go with the flow. Okay, then we asked sorry and Sarvam Prabhu was, "ठीक है, वो होता है." Right? So he took it so casually, right? So that's a wonderful quality. So as you would see, the knowledge that we are talking here, as we do service, the knowledge that is required for us automatically comes. Let's move on to King Indra's prayers. So what is Indra's bigger fear? Obviously the demons, right? So he's Devendra, so the asuras are his biggest problem. So what is his prayer? He says, "My dear Lord, your transcendental form with 8 hands and weapons in each of them appear for the welfare of the entire universe, and it's very pleasing to the mind and eyes. In such a form, your lordship is always prepared to punish the demons who are envious of your devotees." So he says, "We are all surrendered to you, my Lord, and you come here time and again to give us protection." So all those different asuras that you can think of when the Lord comes and protects. So Indra is actually having that kind of a prayer. We'll start moving a little faster now because there are about 25, 28 shlokas more to go in the next 25, 30 minutes. So the wives of the performers of the sacrifices said, "My dear Lord, this sacrifice was arranged under the instruction of Brahma. But unfortunately, Lord Shiva, being angry at Daksha, devastated the entire scene. And because of his anger, the animals meant for sacrifice are lying dead. Therefore, the preparation of the yajna have been lost. Now, by the glance of your lotus eyes, the sanctity of the sacrifice arena may be again invoked." So a sacrifice is successful only when whatever is offered gets rejuvenated, right? So when an animal is sacrificed, when you talk about Ashwamedha Yagna, when an Ashwa or a horse is passed through the sacrifice's fire, it leaves his body, comes out of the fire as a qualified person, human form, at least a human form, right? So the elevation from an animal form to a human form is the bare minimum that comes out because of the sacrifice, right? So those animals that were planned, they were all lying dead because the sacrifice was never, the yajna was never completed. So they are playing that. Now that you're here, this place has become sanctified, right? So this place has become renewed of all the sinful reactions, all the contaminations. Right, so they are praying, and this actually tells us why we do not do a lot of Vedic sacrifices. Like I said, 80% of it talks about all these different sacrifices, yagnas for the better karmic life, right? So why we don't do many of this in the Kali Yuga? Because there is not such qualification wherein you can pass an ashwa or a go into a sacrifice and they get a renewed life, right? So that is not there. So don't have such capacity and we should not even attempt doing it. Our only yajna is the Sankirtan yajna. The sages prayed, "Dear Lord, your activities are most wonderful, and although you do everything by your different potencies, you are not at all attached to such activities. You are not even attached to the goddesses of fortune, who is worshipped by the great demigods like Brahma, who pray to achieve her mercy." Right, so the Lord's activities, the pastimes are wonderful. We'll probably cover that in the next shloka as well. Here, one thing, when we talk about the six opulences of the Lord, again going back to Bhagavad Gita, second chapter, right? So the all fame, all strength, all wealth, all beauty, all knowledge, he's got everything. But the sixth quality is obviously all renunciation, right? So he's not even attached to the goddesses of fortune, right? So Sahasra Lakshmis, if you look at the Brahma Samhita, Sahasra Lakshmi is waiting to serve him, and he's a fully renounced personality. Right, so you have this many pastimes. I was planning to link some of them, but you know, when Lord Krishna actually goes to the river and says, "If I am a qualified brahmachari, let the river come down and give way for us to cross over," right? So you're talking Krishna, 16,108 wives. He's doing that kind of praise. People talk about him dancing with the gopis and all that. That's the quality of the Lord, right? He's completely detached and completely connected to the devotees. We should understand it might look, you know, not very convincing. They're conflicting to each other, but that's my Lord, right? So it's beyond our general understanding. It actually will come in another purport a little later, wherein Srila Prabhupada mentions it's achintya Veda, Abheda Tattva, right? So it's very difficult for us to put our logic to understand this. The Siddhas prayed, like an elephant that has suffered in the forest fire but can forget all its troubles by entering a river, our mind, oh Lord, always merge in nectarian river of your transcendental pastimes and the desire never to leave the transcendental bliss, which is as good as the pleasure of merging in the absolute. Right. So the the people or devotees who are relishing the nectar of the Lord's transcendental pastimes can never want to come out, right? So the same set of pastimes we keep hearing again and again. We can probably talk about this in a brief here, right? So the next chapter we start off with the next wonderful topic, one of the favorites, right, of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So every day, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would, when he was in Jagannath Puri, he would go to the Puri temple, he would collect some prasad, go to Haridas Thakur's place, give it, and then go to this temple of Tota Gopinath where Gadadhar Pandit is waiting. And almost every day, Gadadhar Pandit and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are discussing the pastimes of either Dhruv Maharaj or Prahlad Maharaj, right? So when the scriptures, those handwritten scriptures were looked at, because of the tears that were flowing, these scriptures were washed off. That is what Srinivas Acharya, when he later comes, he actually sees, right? So Gadadhar Pandita's, the Bhagavatam is wiped off. Every day, how can the person read the same pastimes or hear the same pastimes of Dhruv Maharaj or Prahlad Maharaj or both? Dhruv Maharaj, I know the story, no? Dhruv Maharaj sat on his father's lap, he was thrown out, he goes, prays, the Lord comes in, he comes back, he takes the position. So what's the big deal? And this is there in 7, 8 chapters of Bhagavatam. Prahlad Maharaj, so many times you have heard the same Narsimha Avatar story. Why is it so relishing for the devotees? Because the devotees connect to the Lord, and every time Nava Nava Rasas, every time some newer and newer rasas are there when they actually hear. That's one of the qualities of devotees, right? So devotees, when they are hearing to the pastimes, they don't pick and choose who is the speaker. They don't pick and choose what is the shloka. They don't pick and say that, oh, sixth chapter of Bhagavad Gita, very boring. Oh, the Leelas of the Lord, very, very interesting. No, they relish everything because the Lord's transcendental literatures are like that. Okay, the wife of Daksha prayed as follows: My dear Lord, it's very fortunate that you have appeared in this arena of sacrifice. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you and request that you you be pleased on this occasion. The sacrificial arena is not beautiful without you, just as the body is not beautiful without the head. So the Lord is Yagneshwara, or uh, the Yagna Purusha, or the Ishvara of the Yagnas, right? So uh, the entire, all our sacrifices, all our activities are meant for the pleasure of the Lord. This is actually mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. It's also mentioned here in the Haribhakta Vilasa. The purport is that sometimes when a friend or relative dies, especially among lower class men, the body is decorated, dressed and ornamented, right? So this is a very important piece. We have seen this, right? So all these decorations, all these things are kind of useless for the body, correct? Similarly, without Krishna consciousness, any prestige that you have in the society, any advancement you have in the materially, however advanced you are, whatever is the position, whatever your designations at office, at temple, whatever it is, if you're not fully Krishna conscious, if you're not Krishna conscious, then all these are as good as decorations on the dead body. This particular analogy Srila Prabhupada uses in a few places. He says that this, for people looking at it, the dead body's decoration might look very nice, big palanquin, lot of nice items, everything is fine. But what does it mean for the body? It's useless. Similarly, whatever we have achieved materially is useless unless we are Krishna conscious. So the prayer from the wife of this one, talking about the head being chopped off, is in a way relevant to Daksha's head that was chopped off. The governors of various planets, the Lokapalas, right? So spoke as follows: My dear Lord, we believe only in a direct perception, and therefore we see you as a creation of the material world. But under the circumstances, we do not know whether we have actually seen you with our material senses. But by our material senses, we can simply perceive the cosmic manifestation. But you are beyond the five elements. You are the six. right? So like I said in the beginning, that there are different kind of people who pray. Here you will see that Lokapalas are still materially concerned. They are, higher elevated people, but now that they are seeing the Lord, they are not sure if it is material or transcendental. But looking at the prayers of others, they understand that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is beyond their prayers, but they have got the eyes to see because of their association that they are in. And they're saying that, oh, we understand now that you are beyond the material creation, you are beyond it. See, this word Akinchana Gochara comes in the first canto, wherein Akinchana Gochara, a person who is completely fulfilled of his material desires. That means he doesn't have any more material desires, right? So when are we completely filled with all our material desires, fulfilled with all our material desires? When we don't have any more, right? So even if you're Ambani, you still have some craving. Even if you're a beggar on the road, you still have some craving. That means we are not in the Akinchan Gochara. Whereas when Kunti Devi actually prays this, Kunti Devi says, when you're materially exhausted, that you don't want any more, then your transcendental life begins flourishing. And repeat this, when you're materially exhausted, your transcendental life begins flourishing. That means you don't want any more material things. You will see that your spiritual life is progressing. You will see many times, you will see examples of many devotees that they have taken a very strong step in Krishna consciousness and they are progressing very, very wonderfully. Okay, they don't care about whatever they have got materially. You will see that they are progressing spiritually. That means the material hankerings have reduced or their material hankerings have stopped. The Yogeshwaras, the great mystics, said, Dear Lord, persons who see you as non different from themselves, knowing that you are the super soul of all living entities, are certainly very, very dear to you. You are very favorable towards those who engage in devotional service, accepting you as the Lord and themselves as the servant. By your mercy, you are always inclined in their favor. So, these great mystics, the Siddhas, they are praying that serving the Lord is actually the right way to go. The Lord from inside actually gives the directions. We offer a respectful, the Yogeshwara continue, right? So we offer a respectful obeisances unto the Supreme, who has created varieties of manifestations and put them under the spell of the three qualities of the material world in order to create, maintain, and annihilate them. He himself is not under the control of the external energy. In his personal feature, he is completely devoid of the variegated manifestations of material qualities and he is under no illusion of false identification. So they are talking about how the Lord creates and maintains and how we get the different bodies and what can we do to actually get out, right? So there's no false identification in the Lord. And so we don't need to, when we are surrendered to the Lord, we have a real identification or real identity coming out. The personified Vedas said, We offer a respectful obeisances unto you, the Lord, the shelter of the quality of goodness, and therefore the source of all religion, austerity, and penance. For you are transcendental to all material qualities, and no one knows you or your actual situation. So the entire Vedic knowledge is saying that no one knows you and your actual position. So just by reading the Vedas, you're not going to get that. Okay, it's the shelter of the Lord that gives you the knowledge, okay, which is the source of religion, knowledge, austerity, renunciation, opulence, everything, right? So he is the controller of all this. Okay. Shloka 41, Agni, the fire god, is saying, My dear Lord, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you because you, by your favor, I am as luminous as blazing fire and I accept the offering mixed with butter and offered in sacrifice, right? So the five kinds of offerings, according to the Yajur Vedas, all your different energies, and you are worshipped with the five kinds of Vedic hymns. Sacrifice means you the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Fire gets this quality of being fiery, the light and heat, because the Lord is given him that position. Okay, the five kind of sacrifices that are mentioned here, you can actually read this, but basically, the Yagna Purusha is the Lord. The fire there is also the representative of the Lord. That's a position that Agni gets. So when you actually go into the temple, the capacity for us to see the Lord itself is the light that comes in, right? So if you go to any of the old traditional temples, you will not have tube lights and focused lights of the Lord. they will have only the lamps that are there around the Lord. They will show us the arti near the face of the Lord, near the hand of the Lord, and the lotus feet of the Lord, and all that, right? So they ask you to see it. Okay, fire there takes the position of servant of the Lord, who tells, okay, my dear devotees of the Lord who have come here, please have a look at the Lord. I will be the servant here for you. Right, so that's how we actually will be able to see the Lord. Sometimes you will actually hear this from some of the Sri Vaishnava devotees. They say that they don't actually take the arti because the fire might get puffed up, that because of me you're seeing the Lord. So they don't take the arti, but we obviously don't follow it. Just giving an example there. We'll continue. The demigod said, "Dear Lord, formerly when there was a devastation, you conserved all the different energies of material manifestation. At that time, all the inhabitants of the higher planets, represented by such liberated souls as Sanaka, were meditating on you by philosophical speculation. You are therefore the original person, and you rest in the water of devastation on the bed of Sheshanaga. Now, today, you are visible to us, who are all your servants. Please give us protection." So the demigods are all saying that, okay, when there is an annihilation, partial annihilation, you will see that their lower planetary systems, even some of the higher planetary systems, are badly affected, right? So we have heard this in the second canto, with the blazing fire that destroys, and then there is overflow of water, and the Lord actually floats in this water. He gives protection to all of them. The demigods continue to say, please give us protection. A few more slokas, or four more slokas, we'll wrap up the prayers and we'll go to the next section. The Gandharva said, "Dear Lord, all the demigods, including Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma and Indra, along with Marichi and other great sages, are all only differentiated parts and parcels of your body. You are the supreme, almighty, great. The whole creation is just like a plaything for you. We always accept you as the supreme personality of Godhead, and we offer our respectful obeisances to you." The Gandharvas are again higher planetary people, right? So they say everyone is getting their power because they are part and parcel of you. You're the Supreme Almighty. The whole creation is but a plaything for you. Like the kids play with toys, the Lord plays with this material creation. The Vidyadhara said, "Dear Lord, this human form of body is meant for attaining the highest perfectional objective. But impelled by your external energy, the living entity misidentifies himself with his body and with the material energy, and therefore, influenced by Maya, he wants to become happy by material enjoyment. He is misled and always attracted by temporary illusory happiness. But your transcendental activities are so powerful that if one engages in hearing and chanting such topics, he can be delivered from the illusion." The Vidyadharas, again higher planetary people, they say this human form of body is meant for what? For achieving the Supreme Lord. Unfortunately, it's the Lord's creation, which is your external energy, that is holding us back. What is holding us back? The Lord's external energy. How is it holding us back? Because we are holding on to it. That's what it says here. Because we want to become materially happy, we are holding on to Maya. Maya is not holding on to us. We are holding on to Maya. And the moment we are ready to let go, we just get delivered. Right. So that's what the Kinchana Gochara prayers also said. Here also it's saying the same thing. Though, so there's no cessation, but just by hearing the topics of the Lord by Shravanam and Kirtanam, one gets delivered out of this illusion. Srila Prabhupada mentions about Hare Krishna Mahamantra. He mentions it a couple of times in this shloka, says how this simply by chanting one and hearing the topics of Krishna, one's life will change, one's life will become successful. The Brahmanas said, "Dear Lord, you are sacrifice personified. You are the offering of clarified butter. You are the fire. You are the chanting of the Vedikams by which the sacrifice is conducted. You are the fuel. You are the flame. You are the koshakras. You are the sacrificial pots. You are the priest who performs the yajna. You are the demigods headed by Indra, and you are the sacrificial animal. Everything that is sacrificed is you or your energy." Okay. Sarva Karana Karanam. He is the he is the karana of everything. So here the all-pervasive nature of the Supreme Lord is mentioned, right? So everything that you see is either the Lord himself or the representative of the Lord or the energy of the Lord, correct? So that way The Brahmanas, their understanding being everything is the Lord, everything that I see, I can actually relate back to the Lord. So they're saying everything here is, oh my dear Lord, is you. So it is confirmed herein that the performance of Sankirtana Yagna in this age is as good as all other yagnas in all other ages. If one performs the Sankirtan Yagna by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, there's no need to arrange elaborate paraphernalia for the prescribed sacrificial ceremonies recommended in the Vedas. Srila Prabhupada is very, very clear. Again, he uses Hare Krishna Mahamantra a couple of times. So the Brahmanas continue, Dear Lord, O personified Vedic knowledge, in the past millennium, long, long ago, when you appeared as the great boar incarnation, Varaha Rupa, you picked up the world from the water as an elephant picks up a lotus flower from a lake. When you vibrated transcendental sound in that gigantic form of the boar, the sound was accepted as sacrificial hymns. The Vedas were given, and the great sages like Sanaka meditated upon it and offered prayers for your glorification. So some people mentioned that the Gayatri mantra came there. Some people mentioned the Vedas, Vedic knowledge comes there. But what is our understanding? What should we take as Vedesta Sarver Aham Eva Vedya Vedanta Krit Veda Videva Chaham? Then the Lord says that in the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, right? So the entire purpose of the Vedas is to understand Krishna. One who worships and serves Krishna directly has understood the truths of all the Vedas, all the Vedic knowledge. Dear Lord, we are awaiting your audience. We were awaiting your audience because we have been unable to perform the ignas according to the Vedic rituals. We pray unto you, therefore, to be pleased with us simply by chanting your holy name. One can surpass all obstacles. We offer our respectful obeisances unto you in your presence. So when you remember the sacrifice when Daksha did it the second time, he did not invite Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva did not go, and Mother Sati came, and all that past him. At that time, you will see that Lord Hari or Narayan did not appear. Why? Because the whatever were the offerings that was not complete, it was not called for in the right way. Right. So here the Brahmana said we were awaiting your audience. We started off, then all these things happened, but we never had Lord Vishnu coming there yet. Right. So now that you have come, so these prayers get over. Maitreya Muni continues. He says, after Lord Vishnu was glorified by all present, Daksha, his consciousness purified, arranged to begin again the yajna which has been devastated by the followers of Lord Shiva. Maitreya continued, my dear sinless Vidura, Lord Vishnu is actually the enjoyer of the results of all sacrifices. Yet, because of his being the super soul of all living entities, he was satisfied simply with his share of sacrificial offerings. He therefore addressed Daksha in a pleasing attitude. So, Svena Bhagena, right? So he took his share. Bhagavan takes his share, so he's satisfied. And now he talks to the person who's conducting the yajna, which is Daksha, which is basically means the completion or the success of the yajna. So in the purpose, Bhoktaram Yajna Tapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwara, that is the Lord, right? So Bhokta means the receiver or the benefactor of all the yajnas and tapas is the Supreme Lord. Bhoktaram Yajna Tapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Srudam Sarvabhutanam Jnatvam Shanti Prachate. The person who knows this, he attains Shanti. So whatever yajna, whatever tapas, whatever activities that you're doing, you need to understand the ultimate person or the ultimate goal is Lord Vishnu. He's the bhokta of all this. Then your life is successful. Srila Prabhupada mentioned that just by Patram Pushpam Phalaptoyam, you can satisfy the Lord. Okay, so now the Lord, the next section after this, the Daksha continues, the yajna is completed, the Lord accepts his share. So the Bhagavan is actually setting up some context saying how we should have treated or what were the things that Daksha did was not correct. Lord Vishnu replied, Brahma, Lord Shiva, and I are the supreme cause of the material manifestation. I am the supersoul, the self-sufficient witness, but impersonally, there is no difference between Brahma, Lord Shiva, and me. So please understand the two pieces here, right? So are this we are the supreme cause of this material manifestation. Okay, the three parts, it'll actually come in the next talk as well. The three parts, which is your creation, your maintenance, and your destruction, are taken care by these. So Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and Lord Narayan or Lord Vishnu are actually the causes for all this, but the Lord is the supreme cause. Okay, impersonally, when you look at it, there's no difference because we are looking at the functioning of it. Similarly, it is mentioned here, right? So even Shankaracharya confirms that Narayana Paraha Avyakta. So he talks about Narayana being the supreme of all this piece as well. So the Lord actually continues. Just- Lord continues, my dear Daksha Dvija, I am the original personality of Godhead, but in order to create, maintain, and annihilate this cosmic manifestation, I act through my material energy, and according to the different grades of activities, my representations are named differently. Right? So he talks about himself, his different avatars, the guna avatars, and so on, and the different representatives who are all the demigods themselves. So all these are created, or all these are the managed realms under the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These 84 lakh species are also the Lord's creation. The Lord continued, one who is not in proper knowledge thinks that the demigods like Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva are independent, or he even thinks that the living entities are independent. None of them are independent, right? So whenever we do the 10 offenses in the morning, right? So when we're chanting the second offenses, it is an offense to think that demigods like Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma are independent of the Supreme Lord Vishnu, right? So Lord Vishnu himself is confirming that, right? So we are very careful that we understand the position of all of them. No one is independent. They are all subservient to the Supreme Lord Narayan. A person with average intelligence does not think the head and other parts of the body are to be separate. Similarly, my devotee does not differentiate Vishnu, the all-pervading supreme personality, from things, from anything or any living entity. So they all understand that everything is under the service of the Lord. So everything is meant for the pleasure of the Lord. Srila Prabhupada mentions here, Pandita Samadarshinaha, a Pandita or a qualified person sees everyone as equal and equally serving the Lord. Right. So even so, and this is very nice. So, a person with average intelligence, you don't need to be very, very intelligent to understand this. Okay. Only asuric mentality will actually make you feel that there is no Lord, or Lord is not required, or demigod is different, this Lord is different, that God is different, and all that. Right. So everything is part and parcel of the Lord. Even average intelligent person can understand. So you can understand the number of bare minimum average intelligent people that are there, right? So this knowledge is not easily accepted by so many people. The Lord continued, one who does not consider Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva or the living entities in general to be separate from the Supreme, and who knows Brahman actually realizes peace. Others do not. Right. So the two words are very significant here in this verse, right? So the Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, they are all different. They are meant for different purposes. And the this is where I said, right? So you will understand that the Lord said all of them are uh, the same thing, but they are differentiated living entities, right? And this understanding is this Achintya Beda Beda Tattva. So, like in Brahma Samhita, this example Srila Prabhupada quotes is given like the milk and the yogurt. They are the same milk product. But while Lord Vishnu is the milk, yogurt that comes out after some changes to the milk is represented by Lord Shiva. Like so Shiram Yata Dadi Vihara, where that Brahma Samhita shloka, this talks about it. So this Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, these are all different personalities, but they are all guna avatars or representatives of the Supreme Lord. Okay, thus that section ends. We will end this chapter probably with the next 5 shlokas. The sage Maitreya said, thus Daksha, the head of all Prajapatis, having been nicely instructed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, worship Lord Vishnu. After worshipping him by performing the prescribed sacrificial ceremonies, Daksha separately worshipped Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. That's how it is done. Many times we worship Lord Vishnu, Lord Narayan, Lord Krishna, and say this is sufficient. That is also good. In this case, because he had individually invited these personalities, it is meant that this is separately done. Like this example of Jagannath Puri, wherein everything that's offered to Lord Jagannath goes back to uh, Mother Parvati, and from there gets distributed. So like Bimala Devi's, that is also there. So as Vaishnavas, we should be very careful in how we actually treat or address these wonderful demigods. They are all representatives of the Lord, right? So we should be careful. We should at no point in time ill-treat them. We should just understand that they are not independent Supreme Lord. The Lord is only one and they are serving the Lord. With all respects, Daksha worshipped Lord Shiva with his share of remnants of yagna. After finishing the ritualistic sacrificial activities, he satisfied all the other demigods and other people assembled there. Then, after finishing all these duties with the priest, he took a bath and was fully satisfied. So that's how he ends the yagnas, he ends the sacrifice. What does he do? He actually individually goes, like as a person who's doing any activity, right? So if you do a function, as the uh, owner of the function, you go to each of them, thank them for coming, give them the return gifts and whatever it is, right? So the backs of uh, return gifts. So that's what he did. And after that, he takes his bath and he kind of finishes off this sacrifice. Thus, worshipping the Supreme Lord Vishnu by the ritualistic performance of the sacrifice, Daksha was completely situated on the religious path. Moreover, all the demigods who had assembled at the sacrifice blessed him that he might increase his piety and then left. So this is how, or this is the purpose of doing any of these yagna sacrifices. You satisfy the devotees of the Lord. In turn, you get the blessings of them so that your spiritual activities continue. So when our devotees invite for their house other devotees, um, newcomers to very senior Vaishnavas, the purpose is this to satisfy them so that they bless us, so that our Krishna consciousness actually increases. Maitreya Muni continues, I have heard that after giving up the body, so this is the next portion, body, she had received from Dakshayini, his daughter, took her birth in the kingdom of Himalayas. She was born as the daughter of Mena. I heard this from authorized sources. So Himalaya and Menaka, the doctor is Parvati Devi, right? So Parvati Devi is the daughter of Himalaya. We have heard this. So Dakshayini, then uh, the Sati Devi, who was Dakshayini or daughter of Daksha, comes back as Mother Parvati, and as Mother Parvati, she gets married. Ambika, goddesses Durga, who was known as Dakshayini earlier, again accepted Lord Shiva as her husband, just as different energies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead act during the course of a new creation. So Satyadevi is not different from Parvati Devi, right? So she comes back as Ambika, Durga, Parvati, Dakshayini, whatever is the name, right? So we pray to Mother Parvati. It's very, very important that we do these prayers. Right? So we just mentioned Bimala Devi, right? So very, very merciful person. She says that entire material creation are my kids, my dear Krishna. So all of them need to get that prasad. So if you remember that pastime of how Narad Muni gives a little Mahaprasad to Lord Shiva, but other Parvati says everyone will get. That's how merciful she is. She's again representative of the or the external energy is representative of uh, uh, Mother Durga here, right? So she's the caretaker, she's the warden, she takes care of this fort, right? So she's the fortress's guardian and so on, right? So what is the prayer that we should have? My dear mother, please keep me in the service of Krishna. Please keep me in the service of my spiritual master. That's all. And she's so very merciful. So there was this conversation. I did not get the document when I was actually thinking I should probably get it here. There's this conversation that I've heard where someone spoke. This external energy is very scary, my Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada replies back saying that I'm not scared of this external energy. This is okay. We are all scared, right? So we are all scared of Maya, right? So I might fall down because Maya keeps testing and I keep falling, I keep falling, I keep falling, right? So I keep doing the same mistakes again, chanting every day morning I fall, right? So okay, so Srila Prabhupada, you're not scared. Yes, every day I get up in the morning, go with folded arms. I pray to Mother saying that today I want to serve Krishna nicely. Please don't engage me in materialistic activities. Please don't engage me in your service, right? So external energy service. If we are intelligent enough, we'll have these prayers. Go on, pray to Mother Parvati very seriously and sincerely, and she will ensure that she will take care of you, or she will take you to the Lord. Okay, Maitreya Muni thus ends. My dear Vidura, I heard this story of the Daksha Yagna, which was devastated by Lord Shiva from Uddhava, a great devotee and a disciple of Brihaspati. So we heard, uh, if you remember, Uddhava was giving the instructions to Vidura, and at one point in time, Uddhava said that, oh, actually, you want to hear more pastimes of the Lord, then you should go to Maitreya Muni. Uddhava is the one who directed Vidura here. So Maitreya Muni confirms that I have heard this from Uddhava himself. And Uddhava being the disciple of Brihaspati, right? So Brihaspati is the master or the teacher of all the demigods. So he knows what has happened in the demigod arena. So it is an authorized source. I'm not just giving you something that's happened in some other planet. I'm giving you my authorized version. So whenever we are quoting something from the Shastras, ideally we have to give the authorized version of it from where I'm getting it. That's why we always say it is stick to Srila Prabhupada's book. It's the easiest and the safest. Tell it is from Srila Prabhupada's books. There's no other argument that is needed. Otherwise, if you're quoting from sources that is not known or we are not able to get it, we need to actually mention it. We'll come to the last part of it. The great sage Maitreya concluded, if one hears and again narrates with faith and devotion the story of Daksha Yajna as it was conducted by the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu, then certainly one is cleared of all contamination of material existence, O son of Guru. This is called the Falastuti Shloka, right? So the Falastuti is what is the benefit or the phala of actually hearing or reading this particular section, right? So today we heard the entire Daksha story in a concise way. Right? We started with Daksha Yajna. We have wrapped it up here. Okay. If we are faithful in our devotion of hearing this, then certainly our contamination of the material existence, it's actually mentioned, our sinful activities are cleared up. Okay. Sunday to Sunday, we clear up and we start the next Sunday. No, not really. So our contaminations, our material existence, they should reduce, they should get cleaned up. Okay, thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purpose of the fourth canto, seventh chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam entitled The Sacrifice of Daksha. There were a lot of prayers. I'm hoping I've done some justice. I know it is a very elaborate topic. Each prayer or two prayers could take up an entire 1 hour class. So again, requesting devotees go back, read the purports. There's, in fact, one of the purports actually summarizes the entire Krishna consciousness mood and mission of Srila Prabhupada. The way he puts it, like we said, prayers are very important. Being sincere in our prayers is equally important. Getting out of material contamination, material desires is very important, and preaching is extremely important. Bringing newer souls is also very, very important. So that's our that's our responsibility in this Krishna consciousness that we are in. So I will stop here. It's 8 o'clock. I know we have out on time, but if devotees are okay, I can take one question before we wrap up. But thank you all for joining.